Hey there, friend. Chances are, if you're listening to the Inventory Genius podcast, it's because, well, you really want to become an inventory genius. If that's you, then let's stop just listening. Let's stop just collecting information. Let's start doing. I want to invite you to grab your copy of the Inventory Genius book. I wrote this book with you in mind. It delivers bite-sized actionable steps that will help you use your inventory to create more profit and keep more cash in your business. This is a really easy to read book. In fact, I designed it specifically for the busy inventory-based business owner. It only takes about 2 hours to make your way through, and you're going to leave with practical bite-sized steps so you can start implementing the principles of the Inventory Genius method immediately. Head on over to Ciara, Stockeland.com, where you can grab your ebook, your Audible version, or the printed copy. Enjoy! Hey friend, welcome to the Inventory Genius podcast, where we work together here to make you an inventory genius. We talk about profit, we talk about cash flow, and we definitely talk about your paycheck. Because at the end of the day, it's all related to your inventory. Let's go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Inventory Genius podcast. I'm your host, Ciara. It is a new year, 2024, and I am chatting with Megan today. She is our preferred vendor partner when it comes to bookkeeping. So if you have been listening to the podcast and really feel that you need to get your books in order, maybe you're with a current bookkeeper or accountant and you don't understand what you're getting, or you feel like it's not quite what you need, or maybe you're ready. This is your year to tackle all things bookkeeping. Whatever the case, I know you're going to get a couple nuggets from today's conversation. So I want to introduce Megan, and we're going to get started. Hey, Megan, thanks for joining me.
Hi, Ciara. Thanks for having me.
All right. So I found you, or we found each other. Did Emily introduce us? Is that how we found one another? I don't remember.
Yeah, I know I connected with Emily and I knew that she had worked with you. And then I actually think I reached out directly
Yes.
after listening to one of your podcasts.
That's right. Yes. So you reached out to me. Yeah. And that's what I love about connecting through social. Sometimes I think we just feel like social media is there to sell things for us, but it's a great way to connect. I've met a lot of amazing people, and I'm always looking for qualified help for my clients. And I knew the minute I talked to you that you had the same philosophy of business, that you really cared about your clients. So I'm so excited to have you on the team this year. We launched our newsletter, and you're writing some amazing articles. So if you guys don't have the newsletter, if you're not subscribed, go over to the website and do that. But today we're just going to talk about bookkeeping. I want to demystify the idea of books because it's so intimidating for most of us. And you love it. You love helping people have accurate financials. So tell us a little bit about your background first. How did you even get into this line of work?
Yes. So I do have my accounting degree. I went to, or I got my bachelor's in accounting. I jumped right into the corporate accounting world where I was essentially a glorified bookkeeper for a mid-sized business, I would say. But after having kids, I didn't love the corporate world. I did still love the people that I worked with and all of that, but I wanted more flexibility to be home with my kids. So I started my own business back in 2021 where I can help other small business owners. I started out just doing full service bookkeeping where I would do the books for them. But I quickly realized that, there's kind of this gap where a lot of small businesses or maybe micro businesses, when they're just starting out, they don't have the budget to hire a bookkeeper, but they feel clueless on knowing what they're supposed to do. So I really tried to start brainstorming around, okay, what can I do to fill this gap? I created a setup and training program where I would create a QuickBooks account for them and train them on how to do it. And now I'm kind of taking it one step further, just because, again, that kind of starts to get really time intensive when I'm doing all that one-on-one. So I'm in the process of converting that into a self-paced course where I provide the same information, teach business owners on how to do their own bookkeeping using QuickBooks. And I'm still able to be there kind of providing some support along the way in a Facebook group and doing some Q&A calls. But, I really wanted to help bridge that gap with businesses that are smaller, that still want to be able to do it themselves, don't have the bookkeeper. That's really where my passion is.
Yeah, I love that so much because I feel like a lot of the clients that will find me have never had books done. They've never received
Mhm.
financials. So they're keeping receipts in a box or maybe accounting for everything in Excel, which is
Mhm.
great. At least we have some records of things. But they'll do
Mhm.
that right before tax season, right? Because it's super scary to get
Yeah.
all of this to our CPA. He can file our taxes. But all year long, we don't really know the accurate picture of what's going on in our business. We're just
Mhm.
running everything off of the point of sale system. And so you have a passion to make sure that every entrepreneur, every business, no matter the size, has a way to get the financials accurately. So,
Yes.
tell me maybe a success story that you know of, a client that you worked with that was just feeling really overwhelmed with the bookkeeping side of things. You were able to help them and you could just see the difference.
Yes. Um, I feel like that's a lot of my clients when they come to me, they're always kind of like frazzled and they're like, I have no idea what to do. Or maybe they already have a QuickBooks and they're like, I've made a mess. I don't know how to
I've made a
fix it.
mess.
Can you help
Yes.
me? Yes.
Yes.
So I see that, I mean, all of the time. Um, one of my most recent clients, she came to me, I think back in September of 2023. And, I was able to get all of her books cleaned up for the year. She hired me to actually maintain it ongoing too, because she realized she just didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
But in her exact words, before she's like, my bookkeeping was a dumpster fire. She's like,
Uh-huh.
I had no idea what I was doing. I was making a mess in the process. And, just by being able to, make some tweaks in her QuickBooks account because things were set up incorrectly. It was pulling numbers
Sure.
incorrectly. Her reports weren't accurate. Just by making simple tweaks in the background and kind of setting up a process to maintain it going forward. Now she says, she's like, I know exactly where my business is all the time. This makes so much sense to me being able to see it laid out this way, having you explain these things to me. She's like, I feel 100% confident now, where before she's just like, well, I hope it's right
Yeah.
when she knew it wasn't really.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And that's such
it's
an
nice.
uneasy feeling.
Yes. And really, my goal is to be able to give my clients the confidence and clarity going forward to, going from being clueless and anxious about, not only just filing their taxes right. A lot of people, they just do their
Yeah.
bookkeeping because they need it for taxes. But kind of the whole time they're pulling everything together, they're like, I don't really know if this is right. I hope I'm doing this right. To knowing exactly what they need to do, what all the numbers mean, what they need to gather. That's the joy that, or that's what I aim for in my business. I want people to experience that confidence and clarity and know what they're supposed to be doing, know what the numbers mean, and be able to use that in their business.
Yeah, that's so good. So, what
Mhm.
would you recommend if someone comes? Because you mentioned people coming and saying, I have made a mess of things. I hear that a lot. Do you recommend that they start a new file or can we clean it up? Or how do you decide what we do with that?
So there is definitely ways to clean up QuickBooks. I'm typically a fan of just doing that. It gets to be a little more complicated in other industries if they're using like the invoicing features in QuickBooks and stuff. Sometimes,
Sure.
if those cases, I might recommend a new file. But I mean, if you're not using any of the invoicing features, any of the bill pay features in QuickBooks, it's easy enough just to clean it up, the current year. I never recommend going back and cleaning up prior years if taxes have already been filed.
Sure.
You don't want to mess with those numbers. But, say it's, January 24 when we're recording this. If you're trying to go through and clean up 23, you can certainly go all the way back to January. And I encourage that because you want accurate financials so you can do your taxes. So there's certainly ways to clean up and fix things in a current year.
Yeah, and I think the thing with QuickBooks is that for every action, there's a reaction in the QuickBooks software. And so that's the
Mhm.
part that can get so tricky, right? So we feel like we're cleaning up something, and then before we know it, the adjusting journal entry makes this really crazy, or we don't know about adjusting journal entry. So then
Yes.
our accounts are way out of whack. Those are things that you can help with because you understand if
Mhm.
you push this button, this is what will happen. And here's where
Yes.
you're going to find the counterpoint to it.
Yes, it's almost like a domino effect. Like you change one thing and it changes something else, and then you have to fix that, and then it changes something else, and it just kind of keeps going down. But in the opposite way, when you fix something, you might fix the first thing, and then it kind of has a reaction where it fixes several other things that were, done down the road as well. So
Yeah.
it works both ways.
So if this is sounding like, oh boy, this is really scary and you've lost me, we can that Megan can help you a couple different ways. She can help you, just down in the nitty gritty, but then you have your course or your program that helps
Mhm.
educate people. Talk to me about that. And what do I need
Yeah.
to know? Do I have to be good at math? to use the information? Do I have to have any accounting background? Talk to me about that.
Yes. So the course is designed for people with little to no bookkeeping, accounting, math experience. You do not need to be good at math to use QuickBooks to do bookkeeping, because a good program will do the math for you. And QuickBooks, in my opinion, it's one of the, industry leading softwares. It's one of the most well-known. It does all the math things for you. So the way that the course is designed is the very first module will teach you how to set up a QuickBooks account. So if you have been using spreadsheets or anything like that, it will help you get all of the back end set up. I actually include a template for a chart of accounts, which if you're not familiar, with what that is, it's essentially a listing of all of the accounts that you could need in a bookkeeping business. It's how you organize all of your financials. I include a industry specific template in there that you can use because, in my opinion, the one that QuickBooks creates is way too complicated and it's way more than you'll ever need.
Things. Yes.
Yes, exactly. So I'll walk you through, creating that, getting all the back end set up, creating any templates that you need. So the first module is all about the setup. And then each module going forward, it teaches you how to do all of the pieces of your bookkeeping. So how do you actually account for inventory purchases? How do you account for all the different expense categories? How do you record payroll, if you have employees? And then, on the flip side, on the income side, it's how do you get all of your information from Shopify or Square or whatever point of sale system you use? How do you get that into QuickBooks? And how do you make sure all the numbers are accurate? And then, even taking it one step further, once you have everything organized, how do you know it's right? I walk through the process of reconciling. So looking at your bank statements, all of that, making sure that every transaction is accounted for, all the numbers make sense. And then finally, once we get all of those pieces done, I walk through the reporting process. So I teach you how to understand the balance sheet, the income statement, and I even touch on the statement of cash flows a little bit, which I know the report kind of in general can seem a little daunting and confusing, but I at least point out a couple things in there that can help people understand where their money is going each and every month. So that's kind of the general layout of the course so far. I do include a bonus lesson on how to, what I call, get a fresh start with your QuickBooks. So if you have a QuickBooks account already, but you've made a mess of it, how do you restart it? How do you start fresh so you can continue to use it going forward with accurate numbers? So sorry, I kind of went on a deep dive there, but it's been my passion project for a while now. So I'm excited that it's getting close to being able to be in the hands of others.
I love that. So let's talk about inventory on the books. I know that's something that we have, I talk about that all the time. We have to record that accurately. And I'm actually going to ping you offline to get a good explanation for one of my clients. He has a rather large business, so lots of units moving in and out, lots of cash moving in and out, and has a really phenomenal accounting firm, but they're not recording the inventory properly. And so we're expensing every purchase out when it's made. And it's just making such a mess because we can't see any margin on the profit and loss statement. We're just seeing, a negative 20% margin one month and a 90% margin the next month. So talk about inventory and why it's important that you either record it yourself properly if you're going to do your own QuickBooks, or that you find a bookkeeper who understands inventory.
Yes. So, the first thing to understand is that inventory is an asset for your business. If you ever get outside people looking at your balance sheet, they're going to want to see the amount of inventory that you have on hand. But even more importantly, when that gets reflected on your income statement through the cost of goods sold, that's where you get the insight into your business. So if you were to expense all of your inventory purchases when you make it, like you said, you're not going to get that good margin look because typically you're buying inventory, a month or more ahead when you sell it. So especially, leading up to the holiday season, you might start buying all of your, your Christmas stuff in July. So it's going to look like you're overbuying in July. You're going to have a huge, cost of goods sold if you're recording your purchases. But then in November, when you start selling it, or even earlier, I feel like Christmas stuff is coming out earlier and earlier all the time.
It is.
But, then it's going to look like you have these huge profit margins when really you're not, because you bought everything 5 months earlier. So when you have the accurate flow of inventory through your financial statements, you're going to be able to accurately see those profit margins where you are correctly matching the revenue you earn to the cost of that inventory, you can see, maybe it's your standard process to mark it up 3 times, but maybe you're constantly offering discounts or things like that where it reduces that margin. By accurately tracking the inventory, you're really able to match the cost of that inventory to the revenue to see the true profit.
Yeah.
So that's obviously the recommended way to do it. Hopefully you can find a bookkeeper that, if you're looking for someone to do it, that will track it appropriately, because I feel like just expensing it outright, you really have no way to know how your business is operating when, it's tracked inaccurately.
Yeah, and I think it's so important to understand what's going on, because our margin in an inventory-based business is really like that's our seed money, right? Like we have to have the right
Yes.
amount of margin to pay for the expense of the business and then to ultimately have a profit. And if we don't know what our true margin is because we're not tracking our inventory properly, we can't make good decisions. We might always feel like we never have cash. We probably don't, but we don't know why, and we can't really
Yeah.
find the root of it. So
Mm-hmm.
so important. So if a client comes to you and they say, okay, love that you have a course, absolutely have no desire to even touch QuickBooks myself, I want you to do it, Megan. What
Mm-hmm.
does that look like? What does it look like when you take on a new client?
Yes. So if somebody really wants to be hands off and not do any of it themselves, I make it my goal to make that possible. So I know that you don't want to, be answering questions all the time or, being in that there at all. So what I'm able to do is, most banks and credit cards, they have like an accountant user access where I
Oh,
can literally
sure.
see everything, all of the money coming in and out of your bank accounts, your credit cards. That doesn't give me access to your money. I'm not allowed to move it or anything like that. But that way I can see everything that I need. I can be added as a user to your Shopify account or, any other payment processor's account you have. So each and every month I can go in there, take care of everything for you. And then I do reach out monthly because typically there are going to be things that I'm just not sure of. I don't necessarily know what you bought at Costco, or maybe I see a new vendor that I'm just not familiar with. I don't know what you bought. There's obviously going to be things like that. But I try and limit my, communication with you. If you have questions for me, feel free to reach out. But, I try not to pull you in all the time because I know that's not what you want when you look for
Yeah.
someone to do your bookkeeping. So typically, I'll reach out once a month with any type of questions. And then I do make it part of my standard process where I do hold a monthly meeting where we go
Oh,
over your financial
nice.
reports together. So
That's
I
great.
typically go over the balance sheet and the income statement for sure. And then sometimes as I get a little more familiar with your business, we'll pull in the statement of cash flow too, because all of those reports kind of work together to give you the big picture of how your business is operating, how strong your business is. And then I'm also just there if you have questions or if you just need a sounding board for different ideas, if you want to throw around different questions that you have. I'm just kind of there as a resource for you during that meeting or really at any point during the month if they have questions.
I love that. I hope everyone heard that Megan's goal is to keep you away from any of that day-to-day work as much as possible, because I have heard that a lot too, where you'll hire a small bookkeeping firm or an accounting firm that does bookkeeping as well. And then a client will say, "Oh, they just bug me all the time. Like I'm constantly asking questions. I'm constantly answering things I feel like I've already answered in the past." And that's really frustrating for an entrepreneur who's being pulled in a million directions. You feel like I hired help, but now I have to basically do everything. So I love that you make it your goal to set up some good systems and routines so that
Mhm.
you can just do your work, do it really well, and then meet with the client, for those rare questions here and there. So that's phenomenal.
Mhm.
Um, Talk to me about your pricing. Now, we don't need to talk about specific pricing because I know that kind of varies on the client. But another
Mhm.
concern that I've heard before is I get a quote and then every month my bill is so different. It's so much
Mhm.
more than I was thinking. And that's really scary too, because we already don't want to
Mhm.
pay anyone to do our books.
Yeah.
And then we constantly get these surprise bills. So how does that work with you?
Mhm.
What is your system like for giving a quote and really being consistent so we can budget for you?
Yes, exactly. So yeah, I've heard those same kind of complaints and stuff before. So my pricing is all flat rate pricing. So you
Okay,
know exactly what your bill is going to be every month. My pricing is custom. So it is based on the number of like bank accounts, credit cards, payment processor accounts, and then the volume of transactions in all of
sure.
those. So my pricing is, custom like that. I do have it in my contracts where I review quarterly, but I maybe do it annually, really, because I don't like doing it. So, I mean, the only time where I really might review quarterly is if your business is in a serious, phase of growth where it's
Yeah.
rapidly,
You're adding
growing.
locations or something like
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Yep.
And that's different than like reviewing quarterly and saying, okay, hey, based off of the new volume, because you opened an e-commerce store now, or, we're just seeing like you're really growing, so we're going to increase the pricing. That's different than here's your bill. And oh my
Yep.
goodness, you're surprised you had no idea that was going to be a different bill than it was last month.
Yep. And yeah, I definitely, I mean, I know as a business owner myself, like I know what to expect, or I,
Yeah.
I like knowing what to expect, right? So that's why I implemented just the flat rate pricing. I do it where it's auto charged out of your account. So you can just, you pay the first bill automatically and then the rest they're just recurring. You don't have to think about it. And the price doesn't
It's the
change.
same price, so you can budget,
Yes,
which we all love
yes,
to budget around
exactly.
here. So that's great. So tell us why you love doing this. Because I'm sure everyone's thinking, well, we love that we have you in our life, Megan, but like, why does she love books? Tell me why.
Oh man. I don't know. I mean, I've always loved numbers, although I never really consider myself a numbers person. Like I cannot do math in my head to save my life.
Yep.
But just the way that the numbers all work together, I always loved math classes in high school. Bookkeeping to me is like a puzzle. Like all of the numbers fit together. And I love trying to figure that out. I love taking on a new client where, like, in their own words, it's a dumpster fire or they've made a mess of everything. I love kind of peeling it back and making the mess make sense. It's like a challenge to me. Since I became a stay-at-home mom, I feel like all of my day-to-day conversations are, at the 2-year-old level.
Yeah.
So being able to kind of do this bookkeeping as well, it like challenges my brain and it keeps me sane.
Yeah. And I love that you know your clients. Like you're the one that's
Mhm.
working with them.
Mhm.
So, that's something that I know can be really hard too. I know for me as a business owner, when I would hire a firm, I liked the person that I hired and then I never got to talk to them again. I was
Mhm.
pawned off and sent down the hallway and then
Mhm.
those people come and go and come and go and you feel like you're always like onboarding a new bookkeeper. But you know your
Mhm.
clients and they get to talk to
Mhm.
you, work with you, and you're a
Mhm.
small firm, which I really love and appreciate that. And I'm guessing that makes it
Yeah.
exciting for you too, because you know where you start with someone
Mhm.
and you can watch them grow and help them clean things up.
Yes, exactly. I love having the one-on-one relationships with my clients. And right now it is just me. I've occasionally hired contractors in the past just to help on like some bigger projects to get them
Yep.
done faster. But yeah, I love that one-on-one aspect, being a part of your business, helping your business grow, being able to celebrate the milestones with you. I mean, I love that.
That's so good. Okay, so do you have any room right now for any new clients for 2024?
I do, yes. Typically I try to keep my like onboarding list small, but I do typically have space for 1 to 2 new clients each month.
Okay.
January is booked. Now, February, I think I still have one spot. And going forward, I do. But I mean, even if I don't start until March, I can still go back and catch you up from January
Sure.
or
Okay.
things like that.
Yeah.
So I do include, like setup or catch ups if you're behind, that can all be included in that first month as well.
Okay, that makes sense. And then our course, if that's something that we want to try to set up on our own, that's available. Some people can start it as they need to.
Correct. Yep. You can be able to start the course anytime. Currently, it's not quite on my website yet. There is a wait list. So if you're interested and you want to kind of keep tabs on that, you can sign up there and then you'll be first to be notified once it actually does go live. So I'm just kind of putting the finishing touches on it now.
That's awesome. Okay, so tell us a couple things before we go that have nothing to do with bookkeeping. Is there
Okay.
a good book or podcast that you've listened to recently that you'd like to listen to or
Man.
read that you'd like to recommend?
Oh man. For books, business related books, I currently love the Donald Miller books.
Oh,
He had
yeah.
the Building a Story brand, Marketing Made Simple, Business Made Simple, and How to Grow Your Small Business. I've read all of those 4 in the last year, and I'm obsessed with those.
You know
So
what?
those
I
are
need to do.
great.
I know of him, but I've never read his books. So I'm
Really?
going to do that series. That sounds great.
Yes. Yeah, they are very good books. Highly recommend. And then he does have a podcast, him and there's the Marketing Made Simple podcast. And actually Marketing Made Simple, it's through the Donald Miller Network, but I don't know if he actually wrote it or if it's oh, I'm totally blanking on his name now.
It might be hosted by someone else.
Yes.
Yeah.
JJ Hawkins? No, I'm totally drawing a blank on his name. But if you search Marketing Made Simple, you'll find it.
Okay. Yeah, that would be good. I think any of those would be great to jumpstart your 2024, get you thinking. And I know
Yes.
just from listening, I've listened to his podcast. He's easy, I'm guessing, to read. It's an easy to
Yes,
read, very
exactly.
practical. Yeah, so
Yes,
good.
yes.
And then just tell us one thing that you'd love to leave as a word of encouragement for small business owners that really feel like they've just made a mess of things. I know we've all been there. Like, oh
Yes.
my goodness, I had this dream, I had this vision. I really screwed it up. This is not, I don't know what I'm doing. I have a mess. It's 2024. We have a fresh opportunity for a fresh start. What's a word of encouragement you could give?
Um, I mean, I would just say don't stress about it. I mean, if I can promise you that, if you've completely made a mess, leave it in the past, start looking forward. You can start fresh. Think about what you want that future to look like, how you want to feel. Do you want to, increase your knowledge in certain areas so you can feel confident? And just, I mean, I don't know, don't take it so seriously, I guess. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, we tend to do that, don't we? We way overthink things and get so
Hmm.
discouraged, but it's just one step at a time. Figure out where
Exactly.
you have a weakness, dive in, find experts to help you like Megan, people that really know what they're doing in certain areas, collaborate with them, connect with them. Yeah, and
Hmm.
let's just move forward. There's
Yep.
always a
Yeah, it's
fresh
not the end of the
today's a
world.
fresh day with no mistakes in it. I love
Yes.
that statement. And it's
Yeah.
so
No
true.
matter how big of a mess you make, it's not the end of the world. It's fixable.
Yep.
Just, move on.
Move on. I love it. Well, thanks for joining us. If you guys haven't joined the free Facebook group yet, Megan is in there and she does lots of fun little tutorials and classes and questions to prompt our way of thinking when it comes to numbers. So you'll want to connect over there in the free Facebook group. And then otherwise, where can they find you? I want to put all your info in the show notes, but if someone's listening and they want to Google, they want to figure it out and connect with you right now, how can they do that?
Sure. Two different ways probably. I'm over on Instagram. It's at Finding Freedom Financial. In there, in my bio, there's going to be different shortcut links and stuff that you can access and different resources that I have. Check out the blog that I have, or links to the blog on my website. Otherwise, my website is just findingfreedomfinancial.com.
I love it. Well, I love the name of that. Let's do it. Let's find some freedom financially in 2024. Okay,
Exactly.
Megan, so great. Thank you for connecting. Thank you for caring so much about all of my clients and all of the listeners here. I know you really care, and I'm really excited to partner with you this year and keep sending potential clients your way, people that could use your help. So if you guys need anything from Megan, you know where to find her in the show notes, or you can always email me, reach out to me, and I can connect you or find her over on Instagram. And then for now, I want you to just really enjoy listen to the Inventory Genius podcast. I know I just published a few of our special, most well-listened reruns. So if you haven't had a chance to go back and listen to those, you're going to want to do that. And otherwise, I will see you all next week. Thanks for tuning in, and bye for now. Hey friend, thank you so much for tuning in today to the Inventory Genius podcast. If there's something that you heard today on the podcast episode and you want to dig deeper into becoming an inventory genius yourself, I want to invite you to head on over to my website, ciarastockeland.com, where I have multiple ways that you and I can work together on your inventory. I want to help you with your profit, your cash flow, and your paycheck, because at the end of the day, it's all related to your inventory. So head on over to the website, connect with me. I'll work with you soon. See you then. Hey there, friend. So I've already invited you to grab your copy of the Inventory Genius book. But if you're ready to go a step further and dive in, if you want a quick start to becoming an inventory genius, then I want to also invite you to grab your seat and the Quick Start to Inventory Genius course. This really easy to digest course is going to include all the tools, spreadsheets, and systems you need to implement the Inventory Genius method immediately in your business. We'll talk about creating an open to buy plan. We'll talk about creating a profit plan. We'll talk about creating a business budget. And then we cap it all off with a private one-on-one call, you and me. Yep, that's right. The Quick Start to Inventory Genius course includes a one-on-one coaching call with me. So you can go through the book, you can go through the Quick Start to Inventory Genius course, you can write down your questions, and then you and I can get on the phone and problem solve together. Head on over to ciarastockeland.com, grab your seat at the Quick Start to Inventory Genius course. See you there. Hey there, friend. Do you have an e-commerce business or an online store and you are ready to boost its performance in 2024? Then it's time to make sure that your website is primed and ready for success. I want to introduce you to Make Them Chat. Make Them Chat is a leading website and branding agency dedicated to enhancing e-commerce stores. And here's where their expertise lies. They create visually appealing Shopify storefronts that are optimized for conversions, because that's what we want, right? We want conversions. So head on over to makethemchat.com and get ready to say goodbye to DIY websites and invest in a winning online presence that truly reflects your goals.